Welcome to the Sunday edition of Global News. I had to restart the program because I was having major problems with my reading glasses here. I'm going to read an opinion for The Guardian that was written by Simon Tisdall. It is a scathing rebuke regarding the U.S. Israeli led war against Iran. And The Guardian, in the opinion section, this article, I started reading it a few moments ago, and now I'm going to read it in its entirety. The first lesson of war is, quote, know your enemy, end quote. And Britain's enemy now is Donald Trump. This article for The Guardian was written by Simon Tisdall. Quote, as the Iran disaster escalates, Starmer should treat the U.S. president as someone whose actions threaten the lawful democratic way of life everywhere. 9 days in, the conduct of the unjustified, illegal U.S.-Israeli war against Iran grows every more disproportionate, dishonorable, and deranged. The torpedo doing of an Iranian Navy ship off Sri Lanka by a U.S. submarine demonstrated that for reckless Trump, the whole world is his battlefield. Diplomacy, treacherously sabotaged by Washington, has been replaced by unceasing airstrikes that are murdering and maiming hundreds of Iranian civilians. Trump's White House increasingly resembles a madhouse. War aims shift daily. A clueless, rambling president insists he must help pick Iran's next Ayatollah. Meanwhile, his, quote, Secretary for War, close quote, Pete Hegseth, rants maniacally about killing without mercy. 9 days in, it's clear Iran's leaders, those who survive, are not going to roll over in a repeat of Trump's Venezuela coup. Their forces, though drastically outgunned, are succeeding in spreading pain across the Middle East, inundating defenses with waves of drones and missiles. That's no surprise. Iran warned of a region-wide conflict if attacked again. Trump is now at war with U.S. allies, too, having adopted George W. Bush's crude Iraq war, quote, for us or against them, end quote, maxim. The Gulf Arabs and cruelly battered Lebanon just wanted to stop. Britain and Europe must mostly want no part of it, but are being sucked in anyway. The global economy is tumbling into crisis in Trump's war on the world. There are no heroes, only victims. Spain's defiant leader, Pedro Sanchez, is one exception. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu already charged with war crimes in Gaza, and Trump must now face prosecution by the International Criminal Court for atrocities perpetuated in Iran, notably the appalling 28 February bombing of a school in Minab. They should both be sanctioned by the UK and all other governments that still respect the UN Charter, human rights, and the rule of law. And their countries should be sanctioned too. Many Americans and Israelis deplore their leaders' crazed behavior, yet these two things act in the name. They act in their name, according to the article. Concerned citizens fail by an emasculated U.S. Congress, and Israeli Knesset must demand a halt to the mayhem. It's long been obvious Trump is no friend to Britain, but this latest act of lethal hubris, of which the UK received no advance warning, shows he and his administration must now be considered an enemy. Just look at the facts. The U.S., like Russia in Ukraine, has launched an illegal war of aggression against a sovereign state. Its claim of an, quote, imminent, end quote, threat is unsupported by evidence. Its armed forces are unrestrained, lacking any rules of engagement. Moral and lethal considerations are ignored. It has brazenly assassinated the head of state, The U.S.-led rampage, this homicidal turkey shoot, is terrorizing and displacing millions while disrupting trade, travel, and energy supplies. What more proof is needed that the U.S., an outlaw state like Israel, is a hostile power that fundamentally threatens the UK? The article goes on to say, quote, it's not in Britain's national interest that Iran be reduced to smoking ruins. It is not in the UK interest that the Tehran regime, vile though it undoubtedly is, be driven to adopt a symmetric tactic, such as terror attacks in European cities, in order to survive. It is certainly not in the interest of Britain and neighboring countries that Iran fragment into Iraq-style anarchy amid mooted uprising by Kurds and other ethnic minorities. The ensuing refugee exodus would draft that from Syria a decade ago. Most saliently, it is not in the UK interest that the rule of law and the law of war be casually eviscerated, thereby accelerating disintegration of the global order, end quote. Quote, Mobster Trump's latest crime follows close on the heels of his kidnapping of Venezuela's president, his threats to invade Greenland, sovereign territory of a loyal NATO ally, his hypocritical upgrading of the U.S. nuclear arsenal while prating about Iran's hypothetical nukes, his sabotage of UN action on climate, his punitive global trade tariffs, his intrusive support for Europe's far-right parties and reform, UK, and perhaps most bitter of all, his unforgivable betrayal of Ukraine and appeasement of Russia. All these actions adversely affect the British people and the British state, end quote. Quote, unlike Washington, a successive UK governments have tried to maintain a dialogue with the Islamists who toppled the US-backed Shah in 1979. Lacking diplomatic relations, the US was absent from the conversation. As a result, American ignorance of contemporary Iran is profound. To suggest the regime and its proxy militias will tamely surrender is simply crass. Economic sanctions reinforced by Trump when he foolishly reneged on the 2015 UK-backed nuclear deal with Tehran are used by the mullahs to excuse failings and justify abuse. The U.S. repeatedly missed chances to boost reformists such as ex-President Hassan Rouhani by offering sanctions relief. The greater the economy impoverishment, the worse the social strains. The tighter the grip of repressive, misogynistic, hardline clerical and military factions, partly at least, today's Iran is of the U.S.'s making. Iran desperately needs a fresh start. The theocracy symbolized by its assassinated supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, has long ago had its day. Many, probably most Iranian, yearn passionately for an open, freer, more prosperous, pluralist, pro-Western society. But this destructive, unthought through U.S.-Israeli regression into the worst excesses of imperialistic vandalism crushes hopes of peaceful change, the only kind that lasts, and hastens a collapse into warring camps. What may emerge is not a reborn friendly Iran, but a fractured country held hostage by a more brutal, paranoid, ever-threatening, hardline, rumped regime embroiled in an endless conflict with its people and the West. It's argued that Britain is so closely enmeshed with the U.S. in matters of defense, security, and intelligence gathering that it cannot afford a definitive break over Iran. This is a counsel of despair. For most of its long history, Britain has somehow got by without, anyways, highly conditional American help. It could do it so again. Though it might be painful for a while, it would be a positive boom. For example, if the UK's unaffordable, undesirable, Trident nuclear missile submarines, which rely on U.S. technology, were scrapped. Dependencies such as these give unstable, war-addicted Trump dangerous leverage over the UK. US best rid of them before he uses them. 9 days and counting? How much longer? Weeks? Months? Trump and Israel's manipulative Trump whispers must be stopped, both for Iranians' sake and for the future peace and security of the Middle East, Britain and its remaining allies. The existential threat to democratic values, laws, and freedoms posed by Trump, Netanyahu, and authoritarian bedfellows such as Vladimir Putin is ambiguous and growing. For Britain's Keir Starmer, an honorable man, undeserved mocked by a sleazebag, this is the biggest, most important lesson of the war. Know your enemy and act accordingly. This is Trump's war of choice, where Britain has choices too. 250 years after the American colonists broke free of empire, it's time for a British Declaration of Independence. End quote. So who is Simon Tisdall? Simon Tisdall is a Guardian Foreign Affairs commentator. So this article was written by Mr. Tisdall for The Guardian. Wow, there was a lot of reading. So there's another article I want to read before I make my exit for this Sunday. And I thought it's talking about Iran's new supreme leader has been selected by the deciding body. And this is also from The Guardian, and this article was written by Lorenzo Tondo. The headline reads, Iran's new supreme leader has been selected according to the deciding body. Israel says it will target any figure chosen to succeed Ali Khamenei, who was killed in U.S.-Israeli strikes. Quote, the body in charge of selecting a new supreme leader for Iran says it has reached a decision, although the name was not immediately announced. Israel has warned it would target any figure chosen to replace Ali Khamenei, who was killed in joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on the first day of the war with Iran. Quote, the most suitable candidate approved by the majority of the Assembly of Experts has been determined. Mohsen Hedari, a member of the selection body, said on Sunday, according to Iran's ISNA news agency. Another member, Mohammed Mehdi. I'm having a hard time pronouncing these names. I'm doing my best here. So if it doesn't sound intelligible, it's not intentional on my part. So it's Mohammed Mehdi Marbagheri, confirmed in a video carried by Iran's Fars news agency that a firm opinion reflecting the majority view has been reached, end quote. Ayatollah Mohsen Hedari, Alexer, suggested the figure chosen to succeed the supreme leader will most probably be someone opposed by Washington. He said the, quote, great Satan, end quote, Iran's term for the U.S. had inadvertently done the assembly a kind of service by publicly criticizing certain candidates. His remarks appeared to refer to comments by President Donald Trump, who said it would be unacceptable for clerics to select Khamenei's son, Mojtaba, as successor. Quote, someone opposed by the enemy is more likely to benefit Iran and Islam. The Israeli military warned it would continue pursuing every successor of Iran's late supreme leader. In a post on X in Farsi, the Israeli military also said it will pursue every person who sought to appoint a successor for Khamenei. You know, this war, this is going to be a protracted war. It's not going to end anytime soon. And I really hope that everybody who comes on subscribes to Tyrone Bowman Live, because I'm going to be doing a lot of deep coverage leading up to the midterm elections and analyzing and commentating on the different things that are happening in America and around the world. So I appreciate all the subscribers we have. We're on the road to getting 4,000 subscribers, and you know what? It's not a hard thing to do. So with your help, We'll get it done. So that's all of that article I'm going to read for now. What I'm going to do, I may read one more article, then I'm going to move on for today, but I want it to be a good one so that individuals, so we have clarity on what's really happening and what's going on. Oh, I know the article I want to read. It's the one I started to read some time ago. I want to read it today. I want to thank you all for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. President Donald Trump is talking about deploying ground troops into Iran. And that's going to be the big one, because once ground troops hit the ground, it's going to be a long war. So according to CBS News, Iran's next supreme leader won't last long without my approval, President Donald Trump says. And this was written by Mary Bruce and Justin Fischel. Quote, and this is for ABC News. I said CBS, I meant to say ABC News. As the Iranians get close to naming their next supreme leader, President Donald Trump said Sunday that the new leader, quote, is not going to last long, end quote, if the Iranians don't get his approval first. Quote, he's going to have to get approval from us, end quote, the president told ABC News. Quote, if he doesn't get approval from us, he's not going to last long. We want to make sure that we don't have to go back every 10 years. When you don't have a president like me, that's not going to do it, end quote. He added, quote, I don't want people to have to go back in 5 years and have to do the same thing again, or worse, let them have a nuclear weapon, end quote. And this is a developing story. I do agree with the president on this wise. You must have stability in America and around the world for peace to coexist. And that is a proven fact. When there's instability in the Middle East, surrounding neighbors and a lot of people are hurting and suffering at the same time. And you have to have strong leadership. I'm not saying an invasion is necessarily the answer. Sometimes people just need to get together and sit down and talk before they get to the point where children are killed. You know, no one's talking about it, but there were a lot of children who were killed in Iran, school children. You got a lot of grieving mothers going on right now, ladies and gentlemen. And somebody said, quote, MAGA, quote, let's end our something. Okay. President Trump says he will not sign other legislation until Voter Act bill is passed by Congress. And this is from the Reuters news agency. And who wrote this article? Let me see if I can find it. Actually, they probably have the person's name at the bottom of the article. Quote, U.S. President Donald Trump vowed in a social media post on Sunday that he would not sign any other legislation until Congress approves a voter bill that Democrats believe would disenfranchise some voters. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump laid down a tough marker for the Save America Act, which passed the Republican-led House of Republican Representatives in February, but faces an uphill battle in the Senate, also controlled by Republicans. Quote, I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed, said Trump, who is spending the weekend at his Doral, Florida golf course. Whether Trump would follow through on his vow is unclear. If lawmakers pass a bill and he takes no action for 10 days while Congress is in session, the measure becomes law without his signature. The Save America bill would require proof of citizenship when registering to vote for the November midterm elections and would impose criminal penalties on election officials who registers anyone without required documentation. Democratic Party leaders said the legislation attempts to suppress the vote and undermine the electoral chances at a time when they are favored by independent analysts to take control of the House. Here's the problem with this bill. This bill is going to be discriminatory in nature. It is going to be very discriminatory. And it's aimed at stopping Black people from voting. That's what it's about. Because Republicans know that Black people are going to come out in unprecedented numbers and vote against the Republicans. They know this for a fact. And they know Black people are fed up and they're pissed off. And you have millions and millions and millions and millions of white people that don't like what's going on in Washington either. So if the bill is passed, and Congress already has the authority to do so many things, but they choose not to do it. So now the straw man tactic is going to be attached to the Republicans. And it has been proven that the Republican Congress is inept. They are inept. They are scared. They're spineless. They're gutless. They are too afraid to do their jobs. So if you pass the, quote, Save American Act bill, end quote, then that should apply to everybody in America. All of MAGA should show proof of citizenship as well. You're not just going to have Black people coming up to the polls and you demand that we show proof of citizenship, and then the MAGAites get a reprise and don't have to do it. That ain't fair. That's discriminatory. It's selectivity. And we're heading to a contentious political midterm election, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a battle. If you thought the presidential campaign was something, quote unquote, you ain't seen nothing yet. And I hope everybody who's coming on here today subscribes to the channel, because I want to keep you updated. And I'm going to be doing a lot of global news and a lot of political commentary, because I want people to be well informed. And you know what? I'm not going to be prejudiced in my reporting. I'll just tell it the way it is. And I've said before, if the Republicans are doing a great and wonderful job, I'll give them credit. I'll be the first one to give them credit. You all hear me go at the necks of the Democrats every single day on this program. And I'm not a Democrat, by the way. I was raised in a Republican household. Everybody in the family were Republicans. And that's a stipulated fact. My mother was a Stone Starch Republican and a lover of Richard Nixon, a delegate to the convention. So I know politics. I've been around it for quite some time. But you have to be fair. You got to be decent. You just can't say, well, we're going to do what we want to do and we want everybody else to suffer. All right, I've got to go for today, everybody. I'll probably be back. I might stick around the studio and come back later on. But for right now, I've got a broadcast commitment that I have to keep. I hate to rush, but I thank you all for coming on. Tyrone Bowman Live Global News. Never surrender. Never quit.